Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Converting Leads to Clients, Navigating Critical Moments in Legal Consultation, Adam Boyd walks us through an effective consultation structure that may help convert leads to clients. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Not to do. So let's talk about the consult itself. A structure is needed, and this is the framework that I advocate and I've been working with people on, and I want to give you some of this. Before I do, here's what I see most attorneys do in their consult. Don't get defensive if this is you. They welcome the person, they talk about their background, maybe they talk about their personal or their firm's capabilities, they ask some questions about the case, there's a deep dive on the law that would cause Black to be confused. Like he's like, his book is sitting on your shelf and it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. There are recommendations that are multiple things that cause the person to start trying to figure out how to handle all the options in front of them. Maybe there are options on how to pay, and there's, hey, if you want to work with me, they send a link or an agreement. What's missing? Well, a lot of times you don't actually know what they're looking for. You're going to say, well, they're here with me, so I know what they're looking for. But look, I go to an ice cream shop. It doesn't mean I want vanilla. If you don't slow down to find out what's important to a potential client, how do you connect with them on it? Second, they don't know where the consult is going. Okay. When do you talk money? How's this going to work? When do they get to ask questions? What are their options? How do they hire an attorney? Do you ask them questions or they ask questions? They don't know the process. So when they're asking these questions because they don't know, they're not actually present with you. The next thing is we don't find out what's at stake for them. I'll get into this more in a minute, and I've touched on it already, but most attorneys assume both sides know we're on the same page. Assumptions don't work in my marriage, and we've been married 14 years. So how does that end? Like I said, that's a lot of money. Think about it. Can I call you back? Thanks for this information. You're really smart or good at what you do. Okay. If I had an attorney for every time a dollar for every time a lawyer says, my fees are high, or my favorite, the prospects just aren't qualified. Some, not all, but some of the problems with this approach to intakes and consult is this semi-rational approach. And the potential client gives what is to them a rational response. A lot of money, or you're really smart because I have no clue what you're talking about. They're not solving a math problem. That's a different part of the brain. When they come to you, they're in an emotional state. If you're dealing with individuals, it may be that they're bereaved, they're about to end a marriage, they're fighting for their kids, they're scared financially, they've been threatened. It could be a dispute over assets, and they're in fight or flight mode. Maybe they're worried about being able to stay in the U.S. They're facing loss of a license or the shame of a DUI. If you're dealing with businesses, there's fear over being taken advantage of, losing a lot of money, being stabbed in the back, being hung out to dry. Choosing to work with you is not a rational decision. People buy emotionally, even when it comes to hiring an attorney. This is a Cadillac, and General Motors spends a lot of money figuring out what causes people to spend the kind of money to buy a Cadillac. They sell you on style and image. Yes, they come with great engines, but that's not what they're selling. They know what motivates people to spend money. You have to accept that people make the decision of hiring you emotionally. Even if you share your bona fides, what you're really trying to do is inspire in them a feeling of confidence and safety with you. We got to make peace with that. You aren't selling filing a motion or a brief or reviewing contracts. You are selling fix it, make it go away, take care of it. What that really is security, confidence, trust, safety. Okay? Now that we've established it, let's look at this structure. This is the one I work with clients on. It's here for you to use. We spend the first portion of the consult understanding what a potential client is looking for. We then open a loop conversationally, and I'll explain this, and it's designed to get both people on the same page about what decision is going to be made today. This prepares them for that. It's not a surprise. They know what's going to happen and when. We then do something critical. We break apart the case and the compelling issues. We want to know the real problem they have emotionally, distinct from their legal issue. We find out if they're committed to doing something. It doesn't necessarily need to be with you, but are they committed to doing something? When we close the loop for a decision before we talk fees. From there, we can discuss clear next steps. Okay? So let's talk about expectations. A lot of attorneys go in, they know a lot about the type of case they're dealing with, but I don't hear them ask potential clients, what's important to you? Is it my experience on these cases? My communication style? My strategy? Keeping you informed? Talking to you about how we work together? Quick hint, most of the time when I talk to people and I visit with attorneys, we find out clients really just want someone to give them solid, clear, regular communication. That's the winner. When you ask what somebody's looking for in an attorney, you do a couple things. You get them considering their criteria. This focuses their brain intently on defining what it is they want. Sometimes they've not even thought about it, okay? Other times they've just not articulated it. But you help them by asking a question no one else will ask. And then you have a chance to help them define what it is they want if they don't know what it is they're looking for by offering suggestions of what they should look for. In effect, you load the dice, okay? Assuming you're ethical and decent, this is in their best interest. Your job early on is to find out as quickly as possible what they want in an attorney from the consult. And I want you to think about how that would change your consult. How would it change what you talked about if you knew something was really like the 2 or 3 criteria that are most important to them? So it might sound like, what are you looking for in an attorney? Or what are you looking for in a firm? There's a quick note. When you start doing this, most people won't answer the question. They'll just start telling you about their problem. Your job is to redirect them and ask, hey, I appreciate that. We're going to get into all of that. But what's most important to you in an attorney? Is it my experience? Is it my communication? Is it our strategy? How we handle your case? Once you direct attention to their choices, they'll give you better answers. That'll help you guide the consult to what they care about. Then I want you to ask the same question. What makes this a good consult for you? I was working with a firm yesterday and they sell to other businesses and they started to ask, hey, what's important? What makes a good relationship for you? And they said, you know what? No one's ever asked us that. They just jump right in. You follow the same process. This right here will make a significant difference in your consults. The second thing you do is you open a loop conversationally. People want to know where are we going. The brain needs resolution. By telling people where they're going and what to expect, they're more likely to work with you later because you helped set the expectation and you met the expectation. We've all had service providers who said they were going to do something and they didn't do it. We are looking to say, can I trust you? Did you do this thing? It works at a subconscious level. But people want to know, where are we going? What will happen? When we do this, we tell them what's going to happen. We lower their tension and their caloric burn mentally. Because otherwise they're asking questions. Where is this going to go? They have a hard time being in the moment. They're able to be present with you. So it makes you more comfortable with harder conversations, whether the material is personal or talking about fees. And then we talk to them about what decision they're going to make at the end of the consult. That makes resolving the meeting much easier than you saying, hey, go talk to Norma out in the hall. She'll give you some paperwork to sign. It's easier to ask for business ahead of time if you've told someone that you're going to do it. So I have my clients say something like, what? Where did I put it? I lost it. Sorry, guys. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and then I'm going to tell you if I can help. And I'm going to ask if you want my help. That's it. I'm going to tell you if I can help. I'm going to ask if you want my help. That's all we ask. We close the loop by revisiting that decision later after we told them we'd come back to it. But now let's look at the matter. We talked about assumption. You got to break apart the case facts from how it impacts the person we're talking to, even in business law. You're looking for a personal element or the consequences. The facts of the case are rarely why they'll take action. It's how it impacts them and how they feel about it. It has to be dealt with, discussed out loud. You've heard the saying, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, it'll make it sound. I don't know. But if someone has an issue that we don't talk about it, it might as well not exist. We simply assume we're on the same page. And attorneys routinely are guilty of making that assumption and not talking about how this affects someone emotionally. How does this tie into qualification? The attorney and you want to know, do they qualify for my help? Is this a fit? Do I want this case? You have so many leads you can pick and choose. That's great. You're looking for, can I take the case and do I want it? But for people to take real action, hiring you, it comes down to finding their personal motivation. You can't assume you have it. The rainmaker in you needs to know, is there a compelling reason for them to take action? Do we both know, and are we on the same page about what's at stake? Do they want my help? And are they committed to doing something other than watching Judge Judy and thinking they can take this to her? Okay? They've got to be committed to solving it. I routinely hear attorneys say, they didn't seem to have the money and they complained about our fees, and then they went down the street and hired someone who is not cheaper. That's telling. You've got to help people connect with their reason to take action. And whether you like it or not, this graph helps us understand how people make decisions, especially when it comes to money. 95% of decision-making is between the reptilian and the emotional brain. It's very emotionally driven. Fear, safety, protection. The logical brain makes about 5% of decisions for the CFOs and the actuary thing now. I know you see people exploit this and it makes you want to throw up. I feel the same way. But people go to therapists all the time and they need help. And a therapist has to help someone find their motivation to fix it. It's called motivational interviewing, and they employ cognitive behavioral therapy. And a therapist helps people move from surface issues to what they've tried, to how they're impacted, to how they feel. Because feelings drive action. This motivates taking positive action. You have to lean into helping people connect with their motives to take the action that's in their best interest. What's at stake? How often do doctors tell people, change your diet, you got to take the meds, and people don't? If they don't connect with what's at stake emotionally, no one's going to change. So to do this, you're going to move from educating to facilitating discovery. Because if you remember nothing else today, it's that the discovery of your client is more powerful than your points. So you've got to ask questions that cause the light bulb in their heads to go off. Let's pretend you're in a market where your competition is less than stellar, okay? You don't want to bag on a competitor because then you look bad. A client of mine did both criminal and immigration law. He was talking to a former client who didn't want to pay his fee on dealing with the matter. The client had found someone cheaper who dealt with only one side of it. My client, the attorney, knew that the matter was both immigration and criminally related. So we asked a few questions about how the other attorney was going to handle the criminal portion of it. The other attorney didn't handle criminal, only immigration. The client quickly realized what was at stake and gladly paid my client's fees. If the PNC discovers it, the potential new client, it's compelling. Here's what happens when you facilitate discovery. You don't even have to tell them how great you are. They see it, they feel it because of the questions that you ask. They may actually say, can you help me? Or how do we solve this? There's no talking about your firm or your experience or blowing their mind with strategy. There's a time to do that. And there's a time to present how you'll help them. But it's more important that they connect with their compelling issue and experience your expertise by what you ask. Let's give you a way to get your arms around this. You're going into a consult. You've got some information from your intake team. I'd like you to write out the questions you want to know about the case. And then I want you to guess how you think they are impacted by it, which will probably make you uncomfortable because it involves a lot of feelings. I don't love doing it either. What you then need to do in that third box is put together the questions that validate what you believe is at stake, that you'll ask and verify. You then might write down what you think they need to know about their situation. You can even put down some potential ramifications, and then start to ask yourself, how do I think these impact the person, so that you can ask questions to see how they feel about it. I tell you what, attorneys regularly tell me that doing this makes their job so much easier in the consult. You begin asking questions so they discover. You show, you don't tell. This will lead to less telling and more pulling out. Some of the most potent questions are some like, can you live with this? Instead of, here's what happens if you don't do it. Maybe it's, how will this affect you financially versus this is going to cost you this much money, right? Next, what you wanted to know, are they committed to solving the problem? It doesn't have to be you, but you want to know if this is something they're actually going to take action on. And you know what we haven't discussed yet? Money. Why? There's no point talking about money if they're not committed to solving it. So We talked about opening a loop when we laid out the consult structure. We want to close the loop. Here's what most people do to end a consult. They talk about the money. They say, here's some links to fill out. Here's some paperwork. Let me know what you want to do. It costs X. Nope. Here's what I want you to find out. Do they want to move forward? Not, if you want help, I'm here if you need me. I'll send over the paperwork. All I want you to start asking is, do you want my help? And this, one of my clients, he's an estate attorney, says, these are magic words. And I want you to do this before you talk money. If you're free, but they don't want your help, who cares? You might be $1 million an hour, but if you're the best in the world, they might find the money to pay you. Okay? Well, let's talk about discussing fees. People can be weird about money. We all have different messages we receive about money. So you need a process for both parties that makes it easy. Sometimes we can use a real short version. Sometimes we can use a longer version. This can be a lot about managing your own psychology. But some basic mental tools will help you. So one of the things to ask is, what do you think is a lot of money? If you think $10,000 is a lot of money, but your average case is 15 to 20, as soon as someone says to you, that's expensive, you internally agree with them. You need to think through what are some of the messages that you absorbed as a child around money. I grew up in the Deep South, and I was told, you don't talk about it. You don't ask how much things cost. So now when I have to talk to people about money, I feel a little awkward. Argued with my father and grandfather and trying to get paid. I want you to think about what beliefs you and other people have about money. Here are a few principles. Where you can, you want to anchor on numbers higher than your fees in the consult before you get to your fees. What this does is this puts in the potential client's mind a number that's different than your fees. Sometimes the first number that's ever discussed is your fee. And so it feels isolated and it looks bigger than it really is. So what I work with people on is talking about, if we're dealing with an estate, the size of the asset, because it starts to anchor and make the fees. It diminishes the fee size in the mind of the potential client. But I want to anchor where we can. We also want to avoid preemptively offering payment plans, right? So we worked with a client, and we got to the bottom. You can see where we said, how do you want to handle fees? And we told them what it would be. And the person just said, you take cash, and pulled out a stack. I think it was like, they pulled out a stack of hundreds. It was $6,000 in cash. So one of the things that you've got to do is you've got to have these principles about using silence and not believing it's all about money. Okay. Now, get agreement before you push off the discussion about money. You want to wrap things up then and there in the consult. People feel better about decisions they've made than ones they're going to make. It's a way to manage this. Now, let's move to from there. If they decide to work with you, you move to setting up next steps, paperwork, where you'll need documents. Now, some of you deal with decision making. If you're dealing with a potential client who is making the decision, this is usually pretty straightforward. But if you're in business law, or you're dealing with someone who's representing a potential client, or you're selling to a large organization, you're going to need a process. If you're dealing with a personal family matter, or the potential client's not in the consult, you need to do three things. You need to find out who's involved, what their criteria is, and their timeline. Here's how I ask who's involved. I ask who else cares about this. That usually gets me to somebody else. For their criteria, I ask, what are you looking for in a firm, which we talked about at the beginning, which helps you determine where to go in the consult. And with the timeline, I'll say, hey, when do you want to have your attorney wrapped up? Okay. That I'm not asking about the decision. I'm asking the outcome of the decision, which is what they really care about. So this is the master process. We find out about expectations. We open a loop for decision. We talk case issues to compelling issues, to finding out if they're committed. We then close a loop and talk money. In some instances, we have to get into decision making where it's a little more complex. So we can deal with that in Q&A.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.